Thank you very much for joining, Chris. My name is Ryan from Calvert, and
I'm Alisha.
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you as well, too. How's the day going, Chris?
Pretty good, pretty good. Can't complain.
Fantastic. Good stuff. And where are you based out of?
Toronto.
Toronto. Perfect.
Yes, right.
I'll be there in the next few months with Calvert, so we'll have to connect in person if time permits. So yeah, really wanted to thank you very much for the time today. Really looking forward to meeting some of our borrowers, uncovering some of the numbers, and learning a little bit more about the individuals that have been successful in real estate investing over the past year. So thank you very much for your time.
So do you want to start off by telling us about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually Ugandan. Born in Uganda, raised in Uganda. I lived there for about 15 years, and then I lived in Kenya for 6 years, and then I moved to Canada about 9 years ago. So I've been living in Canada for 9 years. I started investing, I would say 2016, but that was like very much part-time. I was a photographer and art director. That was like my full-time thing. And I was like in advertising and marketing. And then 2018, 2019 rolled around, and I just went all in with it.
Awesome.
Perfect.
So what first got you into real estate investing?
I would say my family's always been somewhat in real estate. The difference though is in Africa, it's not really commoditized the same way that it's done here. So you have a lot of people who own a lot of land, but it's all outright. There's no mortgage, and they don't like really utilize it and that sort of thing, where they have 2-3 homes, but they don't rent them out per se. So that was what my family was in. And when we moved here, we tried to do the same thing, but quickly realized it's very different here, and you could actually grow your wealth really quickly if you took advantage. So I got to work, just learning as much as I could, attending all the real estate meetups, and the community is very helpful here. So that helped me a lot, and that's how I got into it.
Perfect. Do you have any real estate meetups that you'd recommend? One or two that you point out specifically that really helps with just get you to the point where you're at today?
I haven't kept up with these last couple of years because everything kind of shut down and everything went virtual. So I haven't kept up. I'm not sure if there's any that I attended back then that are still going on, but I could do some research and I'd be happy to shoot those over.
Perfect.
Awesome. Did you have a mentor or a coach at any point in real estate?
Yes, I had a few people. However, they were American coaches. So I bought a course from one guy in the States who specializes in mobile homes, which I did do. Like I would drive over into Buffalo and, do some deals there, and Detroit as well. In Canada, however, I just relied upon the team that I had set up. So realtors, my lawyers, wholesalers who brought me off market deals. I would just go to them and ask them really high level questions, pick their brains, and they're more than happy to share and give you an honest opinion, because most of the time, if they give you the wrong information, then you're not going to stay a client, right? So I found that they were very honest, and some even talked me out of deals, which, obviously doesn't look good on their part, because, they're not making that profit, but they're like, listen, this isn't a good fit for you. And I really appreciated that. So just reach out to people, and I find I've had generally good experiences doing that.
I think that's really important to have people who are transparent and want to see you win and do more deals together. So that's great.
Yeah, to your point, I know the real estate investing community, primarily in Canada, it's quite small and quite tight knit. So I think word definitely gets around if if it's a bad deal and the individual kind of promotes it and markets it, that maybe the ARV numbers are 500, but it's actually 450, and that would squash the deal. So Definitely, yeah. Agree that transparency and having the best intention for, if it's your client or whoever the case may be, that transparency is definitely key.
Another thing that I would add, like the information online, so like the Canadian YouTube community was really, really huge in helping me, because a lot of the books you read and the information you find that's readily available is American based, and that doesn't necessarily translate into Canadian information. So finding those niche individuals who invest in Canada and talk about Canadian real estate, that's been super, super helpful.
Are there any top ones that you would recommend? YouTube?
Yeah, Matt McKeever, Matt Pichet. Those are the two that come to mind. There's a few others. Mike Rosehart used to talk about that a lot. Then Mark Loeffler is a good one. There is the Toronto Real Estate Investing Show, or it's now I think called the Canadian Investing Show. Yeah, and then there's like a few others as well, and I found those to be really helpful.
Awesome, thanks for sharing those.
Perfect.
Sure.
So what do you currently have on the go right now in terms of projects, numbers of units? I'm sure everyone would like to hear kind of, what you have on the go right now.
So what I did was I liquidated a lot of my stock in 2019, 2020, because I didn't see the whole COVID thing coming, but I thought there was something coming where, would have a slowdown just like in 2017. So I liquidated a lot of the stuff just in preparation for that. And then when I saw the numbers that I was getting on the projects that I was selling, I couldn't believe it. So I figured, you know what, flipping is the way to go. And I put everything into that. And so that's what I focused on for the last year. Now that we're in this current market, I'm now going to look into buy and holds again. So, off market, because the numbers are starting to look good, even though they're still going down, but it's all speculative really. But I have a feeling like we're close to, either bottoming or just plateauing. So I'm looking at a lot more buy and hold opportunities where the cash flow numbers make sense. And that's where we're at. So my strategies before were Airbnbs and long-term rentals, and I got rid of all those. And then I did about 7 flips in 2021. 2022 has been very slow. So I've just been looking at different buy and holds here and in the States, and that's been my focus, just trying to narrow down what markets I want to focus on here and in the US as well.
Awesome. So in terms of buy and hold, because you're kind of shifting to that now, is there a minimum cash flow that you look for? And is there a specific type of property that you tend to like for those?
Are we talking here? Are we talking the US in general?
Let's focus on Canada, just because that's kind of our audience is.
Sure. I would say for Canada, picking up something that has the potential, that's single family, that has the potential to turn into multi. And I'd say minimum cash flow maybe $300 to $500, simply because I'm in Southwest Ontario. And you still want that little bit of spread just in case, your refinances come up, and you also have all the deferred maintenance that you would have to do. So Ontario is more of an equity play when it comes to that sort of thing. So it's not really too much cash flow, but I still would want to at least break even or just be a little bit above, have a little bit of positive cash flow. So, those value add opportunities would be very useful. I'm looking at a couple of off-market deals right now that are single family, but have the potential to turn into a duplex or a triplex. And I think those numbers would work in in that scenario.
Perfect. And do you find the sellers yourself? Or you primarily work with wholesalers, or is it, variety of leads from different sources?
Yeah, no, it's a variety. I get a lot from wholesalers. I get a lot from my realtors. They're very good. They always bring me pocket listings because they know I'm going to close if the numbers make sense. So I get a lot of those. And then I've had referrals from some friends who have family members that are looking to sell, and I've got those as well. So it really varies. And then, you've got the MLS where you could just go look and run your own comps and that sort of thing.
Perfect. Kind of speaking about relationships and that, do you have any tips for just managing contractors? Doing 7 flips, I'm sure you probably have a few key learning lessons in, how to effectively communicate with contractors. Do you have like a schedule where you follow up every Monday, you get a project update every Friday, progress pictures, once a week, or like, do you have a whole process for that, or is it more just kind of on the fly?
Yeah. So because I jumped into this full time, that's all I'll focus on. So I would make sure to be at my sites, as much as possible. And that helped me catch a lot of the issues. And I made mistakes where in the beginning I was a lot more lenient, and I figured that, it cost me in the end on my numbers. So I would say the advice everybody gives is, vet your contractors, make sure they're going to do the right thing. But at the end of the day, you're not really going to know for sure. I mean, you could manage that risk. However, until you jump right into the fire, you're not going to know what problems you're going to deal with. So I would say having a backup crew, being really transparent, having contracts, and setting expectations, and also make it as simple and straightforward as you can for them. So, I would have, let's say, a wholesaler for my paint. My paint store, I have a wholesale account, and at the paint store, they know all my colors. So sometimes I would have my painters, like new painters, go in and try to purchase something else, and the guys would call me and be like, "Are you sure that's what you want? You got this 5 other times." I'm like, "No, that's not what I sent it for," right? So those kinds of things really help solve a lot of those issues.
Perfect. And when you renovate, is it normally like low end, mid end, high end renovations? What's a typical reno budget, and what's kind of the end product look like for you?
I would say mid. Being in the GTA, being in Toronto, the numbers are very different than the rest of Canada. So, but we were in an environment where it was a lot more forgiving to get away with a few shortcuts here and there to save costs. But the market we're in right now, if you were to still consider flipping, you have to be the best product on the market, because buyers now have a lot more choice, and they're a lot more, sensitive to all these things. So if I were to get into it right now again, I would be looking at the more high end or the best possible product that I can get for the price range. Price wise, my buy, I didn't have a budget. So whatever really came to me and where the numbers made sense, I've had my lowest, I think, was 343,000, and my highest was 1.2 million. So that entire spectrum, as long as the numbers make sense. My particular buy box or criteria would be more so the timeline, or how quick I can turn it around, because it was always so volatile. So making sure that my contractors can get a flip done within 3 weeks to a month, that was my sweet spot.
Yeah, no, definitely wise words of advice. I know he's been seeing some crazy stuff over the past few months with volatility. So time is definitely of the essence, especially if you are using private money as well too, with the interest rates, because obviously you are paying a premium with those types of loans.
Yeah.
Is there a specific project from the last, let's say, year that you can walk us through?
Yeah. I had a house in Niagara Falls, and that was the low end one. That was I bought it for 343,000, and we walked it, and originally the budget we had set was for 50,000, simply because it had a lot of issues that we could see. However, what we didn't anticipate was that what was behind the walls was even way worse than what we could see. So we ended up blowing the budget completely, and we had to do all new electrical, roof, flooring, literally everything. It turned into a full gut, and ended up spending about 80,000, and it ran me. The timeline didn't change that much because I ended up just getting 2 crews to kind of come in and work at the same time. And I sold it for 515,000. So I still made a good profit of about 50,000. So it turned out well. But again, because I had bought it super low and bought it right, and my crews were working really fast, I was still able to save that. But again, the market also helped because it went up by the time I was done and listing.
Is there anything you would have done differently before or during that project at all?
Absolutely. I would say be a lot more careful when you see, red flags in a project. I had spotted a few things, and I just thought, okay, this is an owner who just likes to do their own work. I didn't know he did his own electrical as well, right? I didn't know he did the second level himself. And it was shocking when we came in there. So I would say once you spot certain things like deferred maintenance from the inside, you should be way more cautious of the structure and the bones of the house, because those are the expensive items once you get into it. So if you hadn't budgeted for a roof, or we hadn't budgeted for all new electrical, we thought we're just going to upgrade the plugs and lights, and we had to strip everything out to bring it up to code. But at the same time, it's tough when you're in an environment where you have 30 minutes to walk and make a decision, and it's going against 50 offers. It's tough, but better safe than sorry in some cases,
Yeah,
that's something I would for sure have done different. And also reading your agreement for purchase and sale. This was another project, but there was an option for the buyer to close 21 days earlier with short notice, and I missed that, and I had another flip going on at the time, so I had to scramble and come up with an extra 100,000 in a couple of days. Otherwise I'd lose the deal, and so that would be another one. Pay attention.
Jeez. How'd you come up with that money? Just curious, was it a line of credit, joint venture partners? Because I could only imagine I'm a pretty, on average, probably conservative type of guy. So something like that, man, I don't know if I'd be sleeping at all for a week.
Yeah, so this is why it's very important to have your people that you work with and build amazing relationships with them, because I tried everything, and I had some friends who were willing to lend me the money, but their lawyers just killed that deal. And out of desperation, I told my wholesaler, and he hadn't sold me that deal, but we had done a lot of business on a few other deals, and he just lent me the money with just a promissory note, because I was like, listen, we don't have time to put it in second position. But I showed him that, I had 2 other houses that were already sold, and we were just waiting to close in a few days. And we just did it, through a promissory note notarized by my lawyers. He put the money in my account, and man, I'm telling you, if I didn't just, my heart was yeah.
That's a true relationship right there of trust. Oh my God. Because having done a few deals, I guess, beforehand, that really, because going into that cold without having a relationship, that's
Yeah, I had told literally everybody on Kijiji and Facebook, all the mortgage brokers who swear they can get you money. I had called all of them and they were like, sorry, man, there's no way we can get you money in like 2 days. And, one of them being a weekend. So,
Yeah. And did you structure, like, how'd the negotiation go with that? Like, did you agree to pay a fixed interest rate, or was he taking equity from the deal? Like, whenever you sell, like, hey, I'll get
no.
5-10% depending on the investment, or how did you structure that?
It was simply a fixed interest rate, and he didn't even want much. He was like, you know what, I understand what you're going through. I've been there before, because I had found people to lend me the money and they pulled out literally like days before, and they were like, no, it's not going to happen. And so he understood that, and he also knew like I had a few other deals through him that were going to close in a couple of months, and he was like, you know what, yeah, I'm going to help you out. And it was very low interest fixed, put in a promissory note, and that was that.
Yeah. And when people, because we've noticed this as well too, other private lenders, primarily individuals who pull out last minute. What's typically the reason for like other lenders pulling out last minute? Especially the past, prior to 6 months ago, the market was hot. Do you have any from your experience, reasons why lenders pull out last minute?
I would say it depends on how big that lender is, how much capital. Sometimes they stretch themselves thin.
Makes sense.
And it's like, okay, it all comes down to who you trust and who's proven themselves time and time again, and that's who they kind of go with. Other times, you've got lenders who are more willing to take risk and others who are more risk averse. So they kind of go through the underwriting again and realize like, okay, we're not so comfortable doing that deal, so they'll pull out. And again, that still comes down to if you prove that you can make those numbers work, even though they're so tight, and show creativity and you've worked with them in the past, they'll be more willing to take bigger risks. But if it's just the beginning, they'll pull out of deals, even though they've said yes in the beginning. Another issue actually is the lawyers. Now, I have an amazing lawyer, but I've been through a lot of them to find him, and lawyers kill deals a lot. That's another thing that I've come to experience. So especially if they're not used to the creative finance type structure, if they're not used to, flips and houses being transferred within a matter of weeks, they'll kill that deal. And it won't be up to the lender pulling out, but their lawyer being like, I wouldn't do this if I was you. And they have no choice but to listen to them, right?
Yeah. You've made a couple of points that really emphasize the importance of people understanding real estate investing themselves, like lawyers, wholesalers, all those kinds of people. So how do you originally meet these partnerships? Is it Facebook groups or referrals, or how do you go about that?
Yes, it's a combination of those things, Facebook groups, referrals, even just searching online and picking up the phone and calling these people and, see what kind of deals they've got and try and make something work. And then referrals are very important, because somebody who's doing a ton of business like a wholesaler and they've been in the market for very long, you ask them who's a good lawyer or who's a good lender that they have, they're more than willing to share that. And those people are going to be reputable enough for you to work with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
So referrals is big as well.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great comment. So just tapping into the people who have a whole bunch of experience and knowing and building relationships with who they know. Because I think, that's definitely a golden nugget there. So just, finding the key accounts, the big players in the game, and having, probably 5, 10, 15-minute conversation with them, see who they know, and to capitalize on the industry leaders. That's fantastic. Love it.
And be ready to give value as well. Like I don't mind sharing my whole list of contacts that I've made, because I didn't come up with them myself as well. It was just a combination of people introducing us. So give value back. So every time I talk to somebody, even though they might have been in the industry longer and they need something, I'm more than willing to to share and see how I can provide value back. That's very important.
For sure, definitely. Yeah, I would love to see that list if you don't mind. I'm sure there's probably a few mutual connections, hopefully, on that list. So yeah, that'd be awesome. I think everyone get a lot of value out of that because it's really tough, especially if you don't know your first beginning. You don't know kind of what's credible, what's good, what's bad until you actually have those, first time experiences. And when things go bad, there can definitely be lots of money on the line, which is the unfortunate part if things do go bad.
And that's an important point you've made there, because at the same time too, by them introducing you to people, they're kind of putting their reputation on the line. So you have to make sure that you honor that relationship, because if somebody introduces you to one of their contacts and you go ahead and do something nefarious or something that's disingenuous, then it might reflect badly on the person who introduced you as well.
That's a great
point. It's very important to be a person of integrity in this business. Like you said, it's a small type community and word gets out very quickly if you're not.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Very, very true. Curious to know, obviously a man, great ambition. You've achieved a lot. Like what's the next 5-10 years? What's your vision for the future, for what you got on the go right now and what you hope to accomplish in the future?
My goal has always been to get into commercial. So larger multifamily and just triple net deals. That's always been my goal. Now things obviously change, but I'm working towards that. Like I said, both here and in the US, simply because it provides different advantages. So Canada, Ontario, you're looking more at the equity play. The US, you're looking cash flow. So getting into commercial, trying to do a lot more of that. That's what I've been focusing on, buy and hold and transition them into bigger and bigger deals.
Love it. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, no, definitely smart play. Just grow that nest egg and bigger, better, and just keep building the building blocks of real estate. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's the goal.
I was just gonna say, if you were to say one most important trait for a real estate investor, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. One most important trait for real estate, I would say integrity. I would say being somebody who's honest and trustworthy.
I like that.
Everything else follows. You can learn everything else. You can learn the numbers, you can learn the business, but you have to be willing to stand on your reputation to stay long term.
Very true.
Thanks for that.
Very true. I definitely like that. And that definitely resonates from, we see so much here at Calvert on a day-to-day basis, from new people calling us, newer investors, sometimes experienced investors. And you see a lot of stuff that is good. And sometimes, obviously not so good. And sometimes people fudge the numbers and they say they have money lined up and we provide them a conditional commitment. They don't have funds, and being a man or woman of your word definitely goes a long way in this industry.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And obviously you work with Calvert. So what would be your kind of value add that you see working with Calvert? Like, what do you like most about working with us?
The customer service and the speed. So I've had a few deals where it's like, listen, I need you guys to give me a commitment by tomorrow. And Rob is like, oh, man, I don't know if I can do it. I'm like, you gotta help me out. It happen sometime, like, all the time, somehow he makes it happen. So, and, always picking up the call, or even if he misses my call, always calls me back. So I can always count on that. And that's very important to me, because like, in Toronto, 20 minutes is a huge time if you're waiting and sitting to make an offer on something. So
absolutely,
those would be the two important things that I think you bring to the table that are very different.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated.
And my final question, I just want to know, if you were to give advice to someone kind of just starting out in real estate investing, what would you say?
Soak in as much education as you can. Of course, it's important to take action, but if you're completely ignorant of everything, you have, somewhat set yourself up for failure despite taking the action. So education is very important. So do your education, learn as much as you can, and then go ahead and take that action.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Love it. Any specific courses that you'd recommend? Or I guess I know you touched on the YouTube channels. If you have any specifics in that regard, I know we get a lot of newbies, quote unquote, reaching out to us. We always refer them to education as well too.
Yeah. No, I don't know any particular courses. I just read all the books that I could, starting like the Rich Dad Poor Dad that everybody reads, moving on to all the real estate, for dummies, textbooks, all of them. Just read as much as I could, and then whittled it down. The more selective questions I got, right? Because the main principles when you're getting it, into real estate: buy the property at below market value, sell higher. All those things stay the same. But when you get into the more nuanced decisions that you have to make in regards to Canadian real estate, like the interest rates and that sort of thing, then you can get deeper into the particulars of that. But if you're a newbie and you're just starting out, I think majority of the information works worldwide, and you can easily find that online. Bigger Pockets, YouTube, all those spaces, just start there.
Awesome. Yeah, you shared some great advice. So thank you so much for your time. It was really, really good talking to you. And yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, if you have any handles, websites, anything you'd like to promote right now, feel free. Where's the best place for people to get in touch with you?
You could check out my website, smartassetgroup.com. And same thing on Instagram, Smart Asset Group. And email info@smartassetgroup. My name is Christopher, so pretty easy to find.
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. Awesome. Really appreciate the time, Chris. It's been a pleasure. If you're ever out in Calgary, would love to connect. I'll be in Toronto. I'll fire you off a note, see if we can align our schedules. Really appreciate the nuggets that you shared with us today and learning a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you guys for having me. I'll tell you this though, you won't find me in Calgary during the winter, but maybe in the summer.
It's freezing cold out here. I do not blame you one bit.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.